This is Smite Conquest, a huge map with several different lanes and objectives to complete. Today, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about this game mode. Whether you're a new player or a returning player, this guide will help you in some way. And when it does, don't forget to give that like and subscribe button a cheeky tickle. Let's get into it. The basics. So, in Conquest there are 5 players on each team. The main objective of this game mode is to kill the other team's Titan to win the game. But there are so many small objectives you need to conquer before this can happen. There are 3 different lanes and a huge jungle. Each lane has 2 towers and a phoenix you will need to destroy to get to the enemy's Titan. Also, in each lane there are minions that need to be killed in order to push your lane further into enemy territory. In the jungle, you have camps that spawn minions which when killed will provide you with certain things depending on their colour. Blue camps will give a mana buff, red camps will give a power buff, green camps will give a health buff, yellow camps will give a speed buff, and purple camps will give an attack speed buff. Then there are white camps that don't drop any buffs but will give you XP and gold when defeated. All camps will give you XP and gold, but the coloured camps drop buffs you can pick up. This is how a jungler will level up and earn gold to spend on items, whilst the laners will earn their gold and XP from minions. That brings me on to the next point, lanes and roles. So, let's take a look at each lane to find out more about them. First up, we have the solo lane. In this lane, you should prioritize playing the warrior class. It's a 1v1 lane with 3 side objectives. We have a cooldown buff on the side, an XP and gold camp on the other side, and then a totem in the middle of the lane that will give gold and mana per 5 when your team stands in their tower lines. These objectives are very important to fight over as it will give you a lead in lane if you can secure all 3 continuously. This lane is mostly just a big long brawl between 2 tanky gods. Don't expect much to happen in this lane in the early game. You should build as tanky as possible in this lane, but you can also get away with a bit of damage depending on the god you choose and the god you're against. You can always tell which lane is the solo lane by looking for the blue buff on your minimap. This buff is yours to take and you should always try and secure it when it spawns, especially in the early game. Each role has a specific start when the game starts, and as solo you will head to this XP buff, defeat it, then head to your mana buff, defeat that, then head to lane. Now, let's look at the mid lane. In this lane you should play the mage class. This lane is also a 1v1 lane, but this one is all about damage. This lane can be a lot more dangerous than the solo lane, but a lot more rewarding too. This is because you will have a jungle on each side of your lane, allowing the enemy jungler to kill you more often if you let your guard down. This lane doesn't have many side objectives, but these 2 XP camps on each side are up for grabs. Just be careful when heading into the jungle alone. You should build as much damage as possible in this lane, as you will be the main damage dealer in the late game. The red buff is your buff in this role, and you should always make sure you take it when it spawns. When the game starts, you should head to the red buff, pull it towards the yellow buff to meet your jungler, then you will both kill camps, and then you head to the mid lane. Next up, we have the duo lane. This lane is a 2v2 lane. The roles in this one are support and carry. There are 2 sides objectives in this lane. On one side you have the gold buff which will provide a small shield buff when defeated. On the other side is a gold and XP buff. Just like the solo lane, these should be fought over to gain a lead on the enemy. As the support, you'll be building pure defense, and the main aim for this role is to use crowd control, which are stuns, roots, etc., to protect your carry at all costs. As the carry, you'll be building attack speed and damage. The carry buff will be the purple buff, and the support will be the green buff. You should make sure you defeat these buffs as soon as they spawn. After a while, the support should leave this lane and help other lanes that might be falling behind. This is called rotating. At this time, the duo lane becomes a 1v1 and the carry will be left alone to farm. At the start of the game, you will both head to the green and purple buff, pull them together and defeat them together. Then head to the duo lane. Now onto the last one, the jungle. The jungle is all of this area on the map. In the jungle you would play the assassin role. The objective of a jungler is to clear camps in the jungle, but also to gank each lane when appropriate. Ganking is when you sneak up to the lane and kill the enemy god. You cannot be seen on the map when in the jungle, so use this to your advantage. You should build pure damage as a jungler and focus on the losing lanes to try and help them out. You can also get a bit cheeky and invade the enemy jungler buff to take farm away from them. At the start of the game, you should head to the yellow buff next to the red buff and help your mid lane take both together. Then head to your other yellow buff on the other side of the jungle and then take camps from there. In every role you should try and rotate to other lanes for a gank on the enemy whenever your lane has nothing to do. Smite is a team game and requires coordination and teamwork to win. This brings me on to the next important things in Conquest. Big objectives. There are 3 main objectives in Conquest: the Fire Giant, the Pyromancer, and the Gold Fury. They require your full team to defeat them most of the time, unless it's super late into the game. The Fire Giant will provide power, health per 5, mana per 5, and will increase damage to structures by 25%. It lasts for 4 minutes. This objective should be taken when you need a big push and is useful when taking down towers and phoenixes. The Pyromancer will provide a speed buff when exiting your base and also drop a bomb that can be picked up and dropped next to towers to help when sieging. The Gold Fury has 3 different levels. The first is the normal Gold Fury, which provides a lot of gold for your team. The second level is the Oni Fury. This will spawn after defeating the Gold Fury. This provides a minion wave in each lane that has more health and more damage, basically pushing your lanes for free. The last is the Primal Fury, which spawns after defeating the Oni Fury. This will provide a damage buff against jungle camps and objectives like the Fire Giant and Pyromancer. All of these objectives should be fought over and defended if you have the chance, as they can really impact the outcome of the game. Next, we have game phases. In Conquest there are 3 different phases: early game, mid game, and late game. The early game is all about farming, which means killing minions and jungle camps for XP and gold, which will make your team stronger the more you have. You want to outfarm the enemy team as much as possible in XP and gold. The mid game is still all about farming, but you can also take more risks for kills on enemy gods and should be rotating more around the map. At this stage you should have some powerful items built that will increase your stats significantly. Try and look for big objectives to take down towers to add pressure to the enemy team. The late game is all about objectives, kills, and phoenixes. At this point you should be a max level 20 and have your full build of items. This is when you will be most powerful, and you should all group together as a team to kill the enemy team and push their titan to win the game. Conquest is the most popular game mode in Smite for a reason. It's the most fun to play and requires the most skill to master. Make sure you always work as a team, otherwise things can go downhill pretty fast. Instead of calling your team members for mistakes, help them instead. And most of all, have fun. And if you're completely new to Smite and want to get into it, then check out this guide for 2024 designed for brand new players like yourself.